Hello everyone. Welcome to the the weekly eTeknix live show that hasn't actually happened for a couple of weeks. Hopefully everyone's doing good. Hopefully the mic is good. Hopefully the video is good. I guess as always we're going to do the usual. How is the video? How is the audio? And more importantly, how is everyone doing? The whole reason we started these live shows was kind of to form a little bit of a community, talk about tech and all that kind of good stuff. So it's always worth me finding out exactly how you guys are doing. So yeah, let me know in the chat exactly how the video, how the audio is, and how everyone's doing today on this. I guess a little bit grey and overcast Friday. It's not looking the greatest outside. I don't know how it is for you guys, but where I am, it's a bit meh, which I seem to be saying a lot in videos lately. Everything's just a bit meh. So yeah, let me know. Hopefully everyone's getting notifications to come through to this, so we should start seeing these numbers ramp up. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. We've got lots of stuff to talk through today. Some, I guess, important stuff as to what's coming up, what's kind of going on, and all that kind of stuff. So everyone is saying that it's looking good. So happy days. Welcome, everyone. If you've been here before, you know exactly what the drill is. We're going to talk about news. We're going to talk about tech. We're going to talk about all the kind of stuff that has been going on in the tech world in the last week or so, as well as potentially rumored and kind of what's coming up in the future as well. So, yeah, first thing you're going to notice is kind of a new location. What we all thinking about this? I'm not in the studio. I'm actually in the office. Anyone who came to the Patreon meetup will know exactly how this kind of all looks. But I don't think it looks too bad. Might have to bring the camera down a little bit next time so it's not so much kind of looking down at me. But I'm feeling the new setup. What's everyone's general consensus on it? Are we feeling the new setup, or do we like the old studio set where you can see mass amounts of graphics cards behind? Because obviously you don't have graphics cards, because I do. That's just a given now, right? Needs more lighting. Okay, chair looks good. So this is actually the Thermaltake Cyberchair E500. We have actually got 3 of these, so you're going to start seeing these a lot more in videos as well as live stuff as well. The green screen. See, I actually debunked that the other day when we had our Patreon meetup, the first Patreon meetup. So for anyone who doesn't know, we do have Patreon, and we had a little bit of a meetup. People came down into the eTeknix offices. They had a look in the office. They had a look in the studio. Everyone got to do some tube bending. People who've maybe never done anything to do with custom loop before, gave them a bit of advice and information on that, as well as winning some prizes. Some people walked away with some water cooling stuff to actually get their first loop going. Other people walked away with 2 terabyte NVMe drives, thanks to Seagate for sponsoring that. So that kind of went on, and we had this Patreon meetup, and it's quite funny. I had to actually tidy this whole office, something that I don't really do, but it's still tidy. It's still looking good. So but one of the things was obviously to talk about a green screen. So everyone got to have a little look, have a little feel, and see that it wasn't actually a green screen. So yeah. Quite funny stuff. So this is the new location. We're going to see exactly how it goes. But before we do anything like that, we're just going to have a little word from our sponsor. So here we go.
Andy, what are you watching?
It's not what you think.
Wow, it's so big.
Why, thank you. It's the new AOC AG493 UCX. 49 inches of pure performance and a refresh rate of 120 Hz. It's so fast. You can even do 2 at a time.
What?
You can connect 2 devices at a time and split the screen. With FreeSync Premium Pro, a 32:9 aspect ratio, and a built-in KVM, you'll be finished in no time. Gaming, I mean. What did you think I mean? Get your mind out the gutter and click the link in the description to find out more. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. Hopefully that played and everything okay. But it's one of the things with pre-rolls. We've kind of become synonymous with trying to make pre-rolls the very kind of best we can. I don't want to stand there and be like, buy an AOC Agon AG493 UCX. It's got this and it's got that and it's got that and it's got that. I just think that's a better way of getting it across in the way that we do pre-rolls. I'd love to obviously get your guys' feedback. I know a lot of people enjoy them. You have to remember, when you look at adverts, what are the ones that you remember? What are the ones that stand out? In my opinion, it's going to be the ones that, kind of either are annoying, or they have a catchy tune, or they have something like that. If you're in the UK and I said, look, name an advert that is really stuck in your mind, I guarantee you're going to say Go Compare. If you're from the US, it's going to be something like State Farm. These are the sort of adverts, or the Gecko adverts. These are the sort of adverts that you remember. So we try and use the same kind of, thing with that. So I guess, we should get started with stuff and sort of talk about what's going on, because there's a lot of important stuff that is coming up, a lot of important stuff that is kind of rumored. And I guess the main one is all about Z690. So I know predominantly there's going to be a lot of people watching this right now who are AMD, hardcore AMD till I die. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine, right? People can be AMD users. People can be Intel users. Everyone has a different use case scenario. Everyone has a different way of looking at a company and what they do, what they stand for, what their product means to them, what the value for money aspect is, which is probably one of the most important things. So Z690 is coming. It's basically what I'd like to say what Z490 should have been. Z490 was a complete flop, let's be honest. They couldn't compete with AMD where it mattered on features or performance or anything like that. So we didn't really have too much of an evolutionary jump, which was a little bit of a sad point. So Z590 had a little bit of hope in that, and that was exactly the same. Z590, for the most part, didn't do great. And I know that from talking to brands, motherboard manufacturers, AIBs and things like that, that I know Z590 wasn't a big thing in comparison to what AMD did, because obviously AMD had such a revolutionary jump. But Z690 is set to change all that. So that's why I'm kind of writing off Z490, writing off Z590, and hoping that Z690 is going to be that saving grace, because I say this in all my videos all the time, but Z690 seems to be kind of, what everything should have been. And it's something that's going to bring some competition back to AMD as well. It's not like AMD are, the be all and end all. They haven't taken all this huge market share away from Intel. You go into any government building, it's all Intel. Go into any school, any medical place, it's all Intel. They're all i3s, they're all Pentiums. But when it comes to the enthusiast DIY sector, definitely AMD have had really, they've made extreme, huge strides in the market. So Z690 is currently rumored to launch around November the 17th, along with the Alder Lake CPUs. Now, for anyone who doesn't know about the Alder Lake CPUs, they are going to be, as I mentioned, a huge revolutionary jump, because it's going to the whole big core, little core thing. So when you look at, I guess, the main chip that is going to be the one that, the flagship, the one that Intel is going to be, look at us, we can beat AMD, blah, 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 blah. You are looking at the i9 12900K, which is going to have 8 big cores and 8 little cores, but it's going to have 24 threads from the rumors, with an all-core boost of 5 gigahertz and a 125 watt TDP. So this is going to be really interesting, especially with another story that I'm going to talk about later, which is Windows 11 and how that's going to deal with the whole big core, little core thing. Anyone who knows anything about Windows, especially, I think it was even Windows 7 started the whole affinity thing, where basically it could prioritize different cores for different processes. And this is going to be a huge thing when Windows 11 launches, which kind of roughly coincides with the launch of, Intel Z690 and Alder Lake CPUs, that if they have got this big core, little core architecture, and Windows 11 can make use of that to set the affinity and assign the processes to the appropriate cores, this could be a huge, huge leap for Intel, because they're going to have the hardware side, they're going to have the architecture side, they're also going to have that software side that works in conjunction with it. Another processor I'm actually looking forward to is going to be the 12400F. Anyone who knows me and has watched any of the videos I've done, I've always touted about the 11400F being kind of the unsung hero of the 11th gen processors. And it's been an absolutely amazing processor. For the value for money aspect side of things, I honestly don't think there is better out there than the 11400F. Even on the AMD side, if I had that sort of money, which I believe is like, $159 MSRP. Let's not talk about prices that actually are. Let's talk about MSRPs, because, prices are up and down. But I honestly don't think there is better for $159 than the 11400F. So yeah, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. But what is Z69? What is Z690 even going to give us? What is Alder Lake going to give us? I mean, the fact that it is coming this year, we know that rumored around November 17th, maybe even the 19th. And it's going to be a nice way of doing things. Anyone who remembered when AMD first came back onto the market and they switched from DDR2 to DDR3, you could actually buy motherboards. There were certain motherboards out there. I remember having a Jetway motherboard that had slots for DDR2 and slots for DDR3. This was like original AM AM3, no, AM2, but it had, yeah, that whole kind of thing. So you had 2 slots for that, 2 slots for that. Intel are doing it slightly differently. So from what I've heard on the rumor mill and stuff like that, you are looking at, there are going to be Z690 boards with DDR4 slots, and there are going to be Z690 boards with DDR5 slots. And this is going to be, again, that huge revolutionary jump up to DDR5. So it's really, really interesting as to what's going to happen with that, because from what I can tell, when it comes to the low end, they are all going to be DDR4. When it comes to the high end, the enthusiast segment, so I'm talking ROG when it comes to Asus, you're probably talking MPG when it comes to MSI, and then you're going to be talking Aorus when it comes to Gigabyte. From what I can tell, there's going to be multiple SKUs of the same board with DDR4 and DDR5. So you're going to be able to go and buy an Aorus Master DDR4 or an Aorus Master DDR5. In theory, if that's the case with Gigabyte, and it's going to be the same case with MSI and Asus, then you're going to see a Maximus DDR4 and a Maximus DDR5. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see the performance difference between that, not just in memory intensive tasks, but if that actually translates to, I guess, any other performance metric, whether it means that your processor is going to be more taxed under, say, DDR5, or vice versa with DDR4, and then that's going to have, a knock-on effect with, say, your GPU performance or your NVMe performance or just general workload CPU stuff. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see. What else is Z690 going to give us? I mean, it's going to give us, obviously, DDR5, but it's also going to give us PCI Express Gen 5 on the CPU. So from everything that I've read rumored-wise, it's going to be PCI Express Gen 5 on the CPU, and then up to 12 PCI Express Gen 4 lanes and up to 16 PCI Express Gen 3 lanes. So you're still getting that backwards compatibility with Gen 3 devices, still getting Gen 4, which is obviously the current industry standard when it comes to GPUs and also storage. But depending on the CPU that you put with it, I'm guessing it's going to be CPU dependent. Maybe not going to be on the lower end, like an 11400F or something like that, but i7, i9, definitely you'd like to think there is going to be PCI Express Gen 5. I think it's like 2 lanes or something like that. And it's going to be interesting to see what devices actually come out to utilize that, whether we're going to see even faster NVMe drives. I mean, does that even need to happen? We're already at a point where Seagate, for instance, have a FireCuda 530, which does 7,000 megabytes a second read, and what is it, like 6,800? No, I think it's like 7,300 read and 6,800 write. Do we really need to go faster than that? If PCI Express 5 drives were to come out and they were faster than that, what's it going to be like? The other interesting thing to think about is obviously B660 as well. And I know I'm looking at the chat as well. I'm trying to sort of, answer stuff based on what I want to talk about anyway. But if there are any questions, I will sort of have like a Q&A at the end of this anyway. Anyone who wants to do a super chat and support us doing that, if you do that, we'll obviously address that at the end as well and stuff as well. So it's going to be interesting to sort of see what happens there. I haven't heard enough about B660 or whatever that's going to be on the lower end. I haven't heard enough about it to sort of see what cut down features that's going to have. You're probably going to assume that that's still going to have PCI Express Gen 3 and Gen 4, but is it going to be able to utilize PCI Express Gen 5, which is obviously going to come from the processor side of things? To me, it's a hard one because there needs to be enough differentiation between the B boards and the Z boards to say, well, if that's $100 more or £100 more, what am I getting extra for that? If you go, okay, you're getting PCI Express 5.0, okay, that's huge. But if you're still getting it, like you get PCIe Gen 4 on B550 and also X570, it's kind of like, okay, where's this value proposition? And we see this all the time in our Discord. Shameless plug, link is in the description below. But in our Discord, the amount of times we see people saying, I'm looking at getting AMD, I'm looking at, this X570 board. And it's like, why are you looking at that? Get a B550 Tomahawk. It's an absolutely amazing board and save yourself, 60, 70, 80, 100 quid. So there's all that kind of stuff. So, really, really interesting to sort of see what comes out between now and potentially November 17th, November 19th in terms of details, what Intel tell us. They have told us a few things. So Intel had their architecture day, which was a couple of weeks back, and they did say that straight out the gate, there's going to be DDR4 3200 megahertz support, which is a nice little boost up from where we have at the moment. And there's also going to be DDR5 4800 megahertz support. Obviously, above and beyond that, you have still got XMP, so no real kind of worry there, I guess. Either way, this looks to be a pretty huge upgrade over Rocket Lake, which it should be. Intel have had long enough to kind of faff about and do their own thing. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what this translates to. There was also price leaking as well. So I'm actually going to bring this up on the screen. So let me just open this up and show you guys what was actually leaked in terms of the pricing and stuff like that. So let's have a look. Share. So basically there was this, which is quite an interesting story, I guess. The fact that Gigabyte Z690 Aorus Master and Elite motherboard prices have actually leaked. So this was in an Australian retailer, what looks to be. And what you can see from that, hence why the dollar price, I mean, anyone who didn't know this was Australia would be like, Jesus, $768 for a board. But when you actually translate that, the Aorus Master comes in at £414 in the UK. 414 in the UK, 573 US dollars. So it's probably going to be closer to like 599, and then 482, which is probably going to translate to 499. So these are obviously direct conversion pricing. It's going to be interesting to sort of see what happens with that. But the Aorus Elite of 438, that comes in about 236. So probably call it £250. What does everyone think about that pricing? I don't think that's too bad, to be fair, for what you're getting, because if you wasn't getting DDR5, if you wasn't getting the traces that make it capable to have PCI Express 5, I think that's actually pretty damn reasonable. If it didn't have them, I'd be like, oh, that's a bit much for my blood. But when you think about Z490 and Z590, there were boards like the ASRock Aqua board that was coming in at what, 1100, I think it was. There was an Asus what one was it? Was it a Formula? I think it was. Again, it was like $1,000. Some of them were just ridiculous. I think for a DDR5 board, because you have to remember, don't compare the prices of this to what you can get a DDR4 board for now. Compare this, even though these are the DDR4 ones. When the DDR5 ones come out, if they're about the same sort of price, compare them to what Z whatever was with DDR4. Let's go back to DDR4 in general. When DDR4 first launched, the price of them boards were astronomical. So it's going to be interesting to sort of see what price difference there's going to be with DDR4 and DDR5. But I'm not that surprised by these prices. I'm really not. So I don't know what everyone else thinks, but yeah, I'm just not that surprised with it. I honestly thought it was going to be worse, like we saw with Z590, Z490, which didn't have that huge jump of features and stuff like that. So there's that. I guess, yeah, let's move on to the next thing anyway, which the next story really is, and I feel like I do this every single time I do a live stream. It's all about GPUs, right? GPUs are the bane of everyone's life. They still are. I've made countless videos about it, talking about GPUs, and mainly talking about the fact that, prices are coming down, which they are. In the UK, they are coming down. If you're in the US, I'm sorry, I can't really help with that. So let's talk about GPUs. I had a little look today, and you can actually pick up, and I believe it's actually still available. So anyone who's interested in one, on Scan, right now, you can pick up a 3060 Elite for £459. That's still above where it needs to be, but God, is that getting closer and closer to where it needs to be. So head over to Scan if you're looking for a 3060. It's an Elite. It's not the greatest model in the world, but it's a 3060 for £459. That is getting closer and closer to MSRP pricing. It is getting better in the UK. 6600 XTs are in stock at Scan. Admittedly, they're a little bit inflated, about 429, I think it is, when they should be closer to kind of 379 for those models, but it's happening. So let's talk about, obviously, what's potentially coming up. And the first one is going to be talking about the 3080 Ti with 20 gig of VRAM. So this was actually a couple of weeks ago, but it still seems to be, the hot topic at the moment, talking about GPUs and potentially what's coming. So essentially what we've got here is a 3080 Ti Extreme from Gigabyte Aorus with 20 gig of memory instead of the 12 gig. So closer to kind of 3090 in terms of VRAM, just 4 gig short. I get it. Okay, if you're gaming at 4K and things like that, you don't want to spend that huge astronomical amount of money on a 3090, then there's this. But The problem is this is going to be a huge astronomical amount of money as well. So I don't know. It's one of them tricky ones as well with why are they releasing graphics cards when people are still waiting on graphics cards? I can't get my head around the fact that people are still waiting for GPUs and yet NVIDIA and their AIBs are trying to push GPUs. AMD admittedly have done the same. They've released new GPUs, but you can actually buy them. You can buy a 6600 XT. Yes, they need to focus more on the 6700 and 6800 series and get stock into the channel of that. But this is a 3080 Ti. You can't buy a 3080 Ti, so why bring out one with more VRAM that you can't buy? Try and fulfill the ones that you could buy. My argument, and I'd love to see one of these stripped down, is this just going to be a 3090 that maybe didn't make the cut in terms of the GPU core, and then they've just taken some memory off, some ICs off, or is this actually a 3080 Ti that they've put more memory chips on because they had a surplus of memory chips, which I very, very much doubt it. I'd say it's going to be more about the former. It's going to be a cut down version that maybe didn't quite make the rank, but I really don't know. Really, really don't know. So yeah, I'd love to hear again what everyone's thoughts are about this. The other thing that I saw was, and this was actually again a couple of weeks ago now, but still an important story, and that is the fact that a source has claimed NVIDIA 3090 Super to launch this year. So there was a tweet, and the annoying thing is the guy who actually tweeted this has been pretty accurate with past sort of leaks and things like that. So it's an interesting one, definitely, to see that this will more than likely come to fruition. And there has been more talk about other super cards as well, not just the 3090, but potentially 3080 Super, 3070 Super, and so forth. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything different. We've seen this with various launches over the last couple of years. So yeah, this is an interesting one for me because again, stock is still meh. And yeah, and then you have obviously Intel coming into the mix as well. So it looks like Intel's first GPU is going to see the light of day in terms of the consumer market in January 2022. That seems to be the likely date that I would hedge my bets on. And the reason I hedge my bets on that is because of obviously CES. Although saying that, I was asked the other day if I was actually going to CES. So obviously CES is in Vegas in America, and I was asked if I'm going. I honestly don't know, and I honestly don't know if I want to go because the thing is I could book everything now and then find out tomorrow that President Biden has locked the whole country down or done something, and then I've got to worry about getting the money back and getting a refund on my flights, hotel, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know whether that's happening. And I think a lot of other media are in the same boat. And I think a lot of companies are in the same boat. And I think a lot of companies who will be visiting them other companies at CES are in exactly the same boat, that international travel is pretty much going to be very, very sparse for going to CES. So why would you want to launch a huge product there? Especially when you think this is Intel's first moment, I guess, for actually releasing a new range of products. They've had processors for nigh on years. They've had chipsets for nigh on years. This is their first time going into something different. They want to do it right. They don't want to have a kind of half-assed job. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that happens, whether it's going to be a digital launch, whether it's going to be a CES launch. So much of it is kind of unknown at the moment. So there's that. One thing that isn't unknown is I'm going to try and squeeze as many sponsor spots in here as physically possible, but that is the eTeknix PC Maintenance Toolkit. It literally has everything you need to build, maintain, and repair your PC. So you get screwdriver at the top with an extendable bit, which is actually flexi as well. The screwdriver is extendable. You get all the bits you need for Phillips heads, flat heads, motherboard standoff tools. You get the little things for screws with Allen bits on there as well. And you actually get an Allen key as well for doing water cooling fittings. Available over on store.eteknix.com. Link is in the description. Definitely go and check it out. I can guarantee you, because I know there's a load of people in this chat right now who have this toolkit, and they will back me up that for the money, there is not a better toolkit out there. I'm sure a lot of people have iFixit toolkits and things like that, and they think they're amazing. And I'm sure they are. I couldn't get on with it, and that's why I ended up getting these made with our logo and everything on there. They are just amazing. So there is that. So let's move on to the, I guess, the third story, technically the last story. We have got another story I want to talk about after, which is something that's happened here sort of in the last week or so. But let's talk about topic 3, because it actually kind of stems into what I was talking about with Z690, Alder Lake S, what's coming from Intel, what's going to be available, and so forth. And that is to do with Windows 11. So, oh yeah, these are available installed at eTeknix.com as well. And look, they actually show the temperature of what's inside. So my liquid is currently 10 degrees in here, 7 degrees even. So yeah, got ice cold water in there. So 7 degrees. So there is that. So there we go. I'm seeing people in the chat talking about the toolkit, and yeah, everyone's loving it. So Windows 11 is obviously due to come out. You can already put it on your computer in terms of the beta stage and things like that, but the final version isn't out yet. But the main thing I want to talk about with Windows 11 isn't so much on the software side, but going back to the whole affinity thing. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, right-click on your taskbar, open up Task Manager, go onto the processes, right-click on something, you can set affinity. You can set it to high, low, intermediate, moderate, whatever it is. And basically that means that you are telling Windows that while you have all of these different things open, you have got the ability to say, no, I want this to be the main focus for my cause. And yes, Zach, we do deliver to, I don't know whether that's NI or NL. If it's Northern Ireland, we deliver there. If it's the Netherlands, we also deliver there. So yes, we do deliver to basically anywhere in the world. So basically you can do that, and you can do that manually. There has been, I guess, a little bit of auto, let's call it AI to it, where it is kind of doing it on its own a little bit. And that has helped performance, I guess, be improved over the years with every single update of Windows, where there has been these improvements for affinity and doing things like that. So there is that. Now, what that actually means is there are going to be optimizations and performance improvements on Windows 11 that are actually going to benefit Intel more than they are going to affect AMD. So AMD obviously have their design of processors. They have their own architecture. They have a chiplet design. Design. They have their way of, I guess, laying out the cores on their actual CPU. Intel are going slightly differently. So they are going with these whole big core, little core things. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean there's these massive cores and there's these smaller cores. It basically means that you have performance cores, and then you have, I guess, energy saving cores, or the cores that can handle, you know, the light load. So I'd normally say web browsing, but with Chrome these days, God, who knows? But you're basically going to have these, and Windows 11 is going to work in conjunction with Intel and these new processors that are going to have this big little architecture, and it's going to allow it to automatically set the affinity and set the priority to each individual core based on exactly what you're doing in real time. So this is actually going to be, I'm excited for this because it's going to be huge, but I'm more excited the fact that Intel are going to have the upper hand on AMD here. And this could actually lead to huge performance increases, because there's already been benchmarks out there and tests out there that were tested on the old Intel LGA 775 based processors, which one of them actually had, I can't even remember which one, but one of them had big little architecture. And they showed that with that big little architecture, there were performance jumps. And some of these jumps are actually quite high. I think they were up between sort of 10, 15%. And that's on old architecture. Imagine what we're going to see on new architecture. And I think this is going to be interesting, because we've seen it over the last year or so with graphics cards, with resizable bar and smart access memory. Now you're going to have this. So it's like NVIDIA have resizable bar, AMD have smart access memory, Intel have Windows 11 affinity, or Windows 11 core enhancements for big little architecture. This makes it really, really interesting, because if you're anything like me, you always want to get the best value for money when it comes to features, performance, and obviously the amount that you're going to pay for it. But the problem is there's no kind of right solution for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, because some people need resizable bar. Some people will need smart access memory. Some people will need these features. So it's going to be interesting, because people are going to go, well, I want the very best. And it's like, well, okay, then you want NVIDIA. Yeah, but I also want the very best on that. Well, okay, you've got to go Intel. And I think there's going to be this huge trade-off, especially when Intel released their GPU. And they have kind of, you know, thrown a little bit of shadow on this as well. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with whose technology wins, kind of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. But what I'm trying to get at is there will be a reason to go for NVIDIA. There will be a reason to go for AMD. Now there will be a reason to go for Intel. And it's not just going to be about performance. It's going to be about performance enhancements that are specific to that brand. And I just think that's a really exciting time to be alive and to be a consumer, because as always, you're gonna be the winner. You're going to be able to pick what you want based on what you want. And the companies are going to have to kind of pander to you as a consumer to give you the very best deal on that technology. So I'm really looking forward to that. I really, really am. Other than that, I mean, yeah, the whole launch thing, Windows 11 launch in Alder Lake with Z690 launch seems like perfect timing to make such a huge statement. And yeah, I mean, are AMD going to have to change something on their upcoming processors and upcoming chipsets to combat this? What are they going to come up with? Something similar? Are they going to be working directly with Microsoft? I really don't know. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Someone talking architecture. Will Alder Lake P cores have more IPC than RKL, or will it just be on a smaller node and add E core? So they had the architecture day. I didn't actually go on. I listened to a little bit of it, but I had other work to do, so I didn't really dig too much into the architecture side of things. But I don't even think they gave too much away, other than kind of these are the specs for this, these are the specs for that. So it's going to be interesting to see what information comes out between now and launch day as to if the performance cores are just more powerful cores, or if there is some kind of an uplift on them compared to the E cores, if that makes sense. So I don't know how Intel were doing it. Obviously, in the past, we can look at, say, with AMD, with their chiplet design, you can actually look at the node and you can say, okay, they've gone bigger here. The memory controller has been moved to make space for this and to make space for, you know, extra lanes of PCI Express, blah, 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 blah. We haven't had that information from Intel. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Someone's put, I hope Intel supports dual and triple GPU setups. Dual, yes, but triple, no. There's not so much down to Intel. It's more the architecture along with the GPU manufacturer. So that's going to be AMD with Crossfire X, and obviously NVIDIA with SLI technology, NVLink, whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of a bit of a joint thing with that, definitely. So that's what I want to talk about with that. Next thing I want to talk about actually is new merchandise. So anyone who came to our Patreon meetup, which is going to be the next thing I'm going to talk about, would have walked away with a black baseball cap. If I was really clever, which I'm not, I would have had one next to me and I would have grabbed it and gone like, oh, this is what they look like. Basically, we've now got baseball caps, eTeknix branded baseball caps, which are going to be available on store.eteknix.com. We need to take pictures of them and stuff, and then we can actually get the listing put up on store.eteknix.com. So if you are interested in them, they are coming up very, very soon. I will put out an announcement on Discord, Twitter, and everything when they are available. Now, last thing I want to talk about was we actually had a meetup here. So I did say this at the beginning of this, anyone who wasn't here, we had a meetup. Lockdown has hit everyone very, very hard. We had a meetup in our eTeknix offices. So, yeah, that was interesting. It was the first time we've ever done something like that. It was for our patrons, which if you're not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/eTeknix. I'm sure Connor is going to put that link into the chat now, like the little trooper that he is. But yeah, it supports what we do. It's £1 a month, $1 a month, but you get so many benefits like behind the scenes content, exclusive giveaways. We have game nights, which our next one is actually tomorrow. We play stupid games like CSGO, Codenames, Gartic Phones, web-based games. You don't need the most powerful computer in the world. We all go on to, voice chat on Discord. We drink beer. We have a good time. We all have a laugh. And I guarantee everyone who's on it walks away with their cheeks hurting from so much laughter. So it's definitely worth checking out. But we had a Patreon meetup. So people who were Patreon were able to come to it. And we had that last weekend. And it was absolutely amazing. People came here. They won stuff. They walked away with merch, all kind of good stuff like that. Some people actually won 2 terabyte FireCuda NVMe drives, courtesy of Seagate. So thank you very much to Seagate for sponsoring that. We gave 5 2 terabyte drives away. They're like almost 300 quid each. It was ridiculous. XSPC also sponsored as well. We gave some stuff away. Everyone got to do their own tube bending. People who have never, ever done tube bending before. And I've got to admit, I was actually pretty surprised. Everyone kind of learned it quite quickly. And the general consensus on the day was that people want to see kind of more custom loop stuff. So, yeah, definitely looking to do some more custom loop stuff. We have actually got a video coming up with an MSI EK X570 board, which is going to be going live next week as well as potentially some roast videos and stuff as well. And we've got a keyboard going live, which is the Mountain Everest Max keyboard, which is probably my new favorite keyboard. A little bit of a spoiler there. But yeah, people won stuff. We camped out. We had barbecues. No one got sick from the food, so that was always good. And yeah, we're going to look to do it again. So we're going to do another one in May. We're going to go bigger. We're going to go better. We're going to have more prizes. We're going to have, hopefully, more people going to attend because we're going to give them more notice. This was actually quite short notice. So if that sounds like something you want to do, and we are going to have people coming over from, not just from the UK, but from outside of the UK as well, definitely sign up to Patreon, go onto our Discord, have a little chat with us about it. It's going to be amazing. People are going to be walking away with some pretty amazing prizes, and it's just generally good fun with good people. So yeah, so there's that. Right, let's have a little look through chats and stuff, and let's have a little bit of a Q&A session. Firstly, I want to say, Welshie, thank you very much for the super chat. Anyone else who wants to do a super chat on YouTube, you can do that by clicking the little super chat button below the chat. Thank you very much for that. How is the meetup video coming along? So with the Patreon meetup, we did do some video content. That is potentially going to go live next week as well. So yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So yeah, mounting keyboard. That's basically what we've got coming up, which is this one here. Just finishing off the final touches and getting it all ready for next week. But yeah, it's going to be a really, really nice looking video on an amazing keyboard. Admittedly, it's expensive, but for a very, very good reason. JPX dude, giving your Patreon a go. You are the man. You are the man. Anyone else who wants to sign up? Anyone else who wants to support us, you can do so in many, many different ways. You can sign up to Patreon. You can click the join button if you're on YouTube below and sign up to that. You can buy stuff from store.eteknix.com, like the eTeknix PC maintenance toolkit or the handy dandy smart thermos, which has the little readout on the top, which is really, really cool at 12 degrees. Or you can just make sure you like this video, like our content on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all them wonderful places. But yes, Patreon is worth it for game night alone. Definitely, definitely, definitely. I'm really, really looking forward to game night tomorrow night. So there's that. Right, let's go with some Q&A stuff then. So what have we got? So I blew up my 8700K. So this is a tricky one. He blew up his 8700K, but he has a Z370 ROG Apex board, so he can swap to a 9900K, which costs 320 euros. Should I do that or buy a new Mobo and a 12600K, 12700K? Pretty much games only with RTX 3080. I mean, 9900K is still an amazing processor. Moving up to the 12th gen when that is available, and the hard thing is me telling you to do something before it's actually come out. I will always, 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 and I know other YouTubers do the same, say don't pre-order something. Wait until you see the results of what actually happens and go from there. So it's a bit of a hard one for me to kind of judge at the moment as to should you buy something that I do not have any performance figures on, any metrics, no, any more than you. I know I've got boards coming from AIB partners. I've signed NDAs to claim and say that. I know a concrete date. I just can't say it. Hence why I have to sort of say the dates, that are out there as rumors are rumors. If it was me personally, I would wait, see what happens, and then I would probably buy a 12th gen, just because you have the opportunity to move up to the current architecture, the current kind of product line and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you buy a 9900K for 320 euros, you're going to be maybe even in a year's time thinking maybe due a little bit of an upgrade. So you're going to be buying it twice, essentially. So last gen CPUs, I mean, if you want to stick with Intel, I honestly, I can't condone too much on Z490 and Z590. I'd go AMD if Intel didn't have something coming along. But if I was in your exact situation right now, in your shoes, I would wait to see what Intel has and then look at either buying Intel or AMD, whichever one seems to be the most suited. I'd say if you're not on our Discord, link is in the description below, shameless plug, I know, but if you're not on there, I would definitely look at signing up and sort of talking through with, a lot of the people there as to what other people would do and stuff like that. So there is that. What else have we got? So, Thunder Turbine, thank you very much for the super chat. Great job with the streams. We'll try coming next year to the meetup. That'll be cool. All the way from Australia. So I think, as far as I know, the next meetup we're going to look at doing potentially May bank holiday. So we can actually do it over a couple of days. So it'll be come down, we camp out overnight, we then do something the next day, whether it be an escape room, go-karting, something like that. We then go to the office, we do some stuff there. We talk about, tech and stuff like that. We go in the studio, we do some fun stuff, people win some prizes. Then we go camping again in the night. We get food, barbecue, all that kind of stuff. And I know people from France are looking at coming. I know people from Norway, the Netherlands are looking at coming. So, God, having someone from Australia would be pretty damn cool, I've got to admit. So, yeah, Bad Dog is an iPhone peasant right now, no PC. So there's that. That is pretty much it, really. I wanted to make this live stream sort of 40, 45 minutes, and we're pretty much at that marker now. So appreciate everyone for obviously dropping in. And if you have signed up to Patreon or you have bought something from store.eteknix.com, that is very, very much appreciated. As I say, if you don't want to spend any money and support us that way, with Patreon, we always try and take money and put it back into Patreon. So when we do have a game night on Saturday, every other Saturday night, someone always wins a prize. You can choose from like Steam credit, Amazon credit, eTeknix merch, other prizes that I have on shelves over here. So we always try and put the stuff back in. So there's that. So yeah, all good. So, right, I'm going to call it there, guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And yeah, the thing is with these live streams, I did try and make them a weekly thing. It didn't quite fully happen, but hopefully we can, we can look at doing some more live streams in the future. I'd love to do some more builds again, but the problem is with YouTube, builds don't seem to get the views that they once did. So there's that. Richard, new here, will hang around and consider subbing. Definitely, man. Definitely sub. It's I'd like to think there's a huge market, especially for British YouTubers. So hopefully I can kind of fill that void of what's needed there. But yeah, anyone who's not already, definitely head over to our Discord. It's a great place to be, great place to chat, and full of a wealth of information with some really cool people in it. So there you go, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know exactly what to do. Smash that like button on your way out. Consider subbing, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.